The fuel gauge had been lying for 3 days. Nadia Reyes knew this because her ship, a beaten cargo hauler she called the Stubborn Mule, had a habit of lying about everything. The navigation said she was on course. The hull integrity said everything was fine. The fuel gauge said she had plenty left. All lies that S.O. When Tessera 7 appeared on her scanner, she didn't hesitate. The small moon was known for cheap fuel, decent mechanics, and absolutely nothing interesting. Perfect for someone who had spent 6 years avoiding anything interesting. She landed near a repair station run by a 4-armed Drellian named Goss. He was gray-skinned, wide-shouldered, and had been fixing ships longer than Nadia had been alive. Fuel lines cracked, he said after looking at her ship for about 10 seconds. Also, your left thruster is held together by hope and rust. Can you fix it? Can fix anything? He scratched his chin with one of his lower arms. Take about 6 hours. You should see the vault while you wait. Nadia frowned. What vault? Goss stared at her like she had grown a second head. You don't know about the vault? The whole reason this moon exists on any map. He pointed toward a hill in the distance. Nadia could see a structure there, ancient and massive, surrounded by viewing platforms and a small museum building. That vault, Goss continued, has been here longer than any civilization in the galaxy. Over 2 million years old. 847 species have tried to open it. Every single one failed. Nadia shrugged. So it's a locked door? Why should I care? Because nobody knows what's inside. Because every scanner, every probe, every tool we have says it's impossible. The door has a genetic scanner that rejects everything. Every type of DNA, every biological signature. Some scientists spent their whole lives trying to crack it. Goss laughed. One group tried to move the entire moon. Didn't work either. Despite herself, Nadia felt a small spark of curiosity. She had 6 hours to kill. Might as well look at an impossible door. The walk took 20 minutes. The vault was larger up close, a rectangular structure made of metal that didn't match anything in galactic databases. The door was smooth and featureless except for a single panel at its center, clearly a hand scanner of some kind. A board tour guide was explaining the history to a small group of tourists. Nadia half listened while she circled the structure, looking at the ancient walls, the strange symbols carved into them. Over 3,000 years ago, the Galactic Consortium declared this a protected heritage site, the guide was saying. Since then, only authorized scientific teams have been allowed to attempt opening it. All have failed. Nadia found herself standing in front of the scanner. It looked simple enough. Just a flat panel with a faint glow. Goss appeared beside her. He had followed her up the hill. Want to try? He asked with a grin. Why would I? Because nobody human has ever touched it. Your species only joined the galactic community 40 years ago. Most humans don't travel this far out. He shrugged all 4 shoulders. I'll top off your fuel for free if you do it. Nothing will happen anyway. Free fuel was free fuel. Nadia rolled her eyes and pressed her palm against the scanner. For a moment, nothing happened. Then light exploded beneath her hand. Ancient mechanisms groaned. The ground trembled. Lights that had been dark for millions of years blazed to life along the vault's surface, tracing patterns that spread like lightning across the walls. Goss stumbled backward, his tools clattering to the ground. The tour group screamed and scattered, and a voice spoke, clear and calm, in perfect English that Nadia understood completely. Genetic signature recognized. Welcome home, daughter of Earth. The massive doors began to open. Nadia stood frozen, her hand still on the scanner, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Cold air rushed out from inside the vault, air that had been sealed away for over 2 million years. That's impossible, Goss whispered. That's completely impossible. Alarms began wailing across the moon. Emergency lights flashed. Nadia could already see people running toward the vault, scientists and officials and tourists all scrambling to see what had happened. She finally pulled her hand away from the scanner. The doors continued opening, revealing darkness inside. Darkness that was slowly filling with soft blue light. What did I do? She breathed. Goss grabbed her arm, his gray face pale with shock. You opened it. After 2 million years, you opened it. Within an hour, news had spread across the communication networks. Within 3 hours, ships began changing course toward Tessera 7. Within 6 hours, Nadia Reyes had become the most talked-about human in the galaxy. She sat on a rock near her ship, watching the chaos unfold around the vault. Officials were establishing a perimeter. Scientists were arguing. Military vessels were entering orbit. All she had wanted was to fix her fuel line and leave. Goss sat down beside her, offering a cup of something warm. You know, he said quietly, I was joking about the free fuel. Nadia laughed, though there was no humor in it. Keep your fuel. I have a feeling I won't be leaving anytime soon. She looked up at the sky, where more ships were already appearing, drawn by the news that the impossible had finally happened. An ordinary human woman had opened the door that rejected everything, and now everyone wanted to know why. 17 different officials had asked Nadia the same question in 3 days. How did you do it? She gave them all the same answer. I just touched it. Nobody believed her. She was being held in a temporary station that had been built with impressive speed near the vault. Held was the polite word. She wasn't in a cell, but she also wasn't allowed to leave. Representatives from a galactic consortium, the Merchant Collective, and about 15 different governments had all requested that she remain available for questioning. The questions never stopped, but they never went anywhere either. On the 4th day, a tall gray skin pallid named Ambassador Delros visited her quarters. He had too many teeth in his smile and eyes that calculated everything they saw. Miss Reyes, he said smoothly, the consortium would like to propose a partnership. Exclusive access to the vault's contents in exchange for substantial compensation. You would never need to haul cargo again. And if I say no, the smile didn't waver. We hope you won't. Nadia had met enough dishonest traders in her years of cargo hauling to recognize a threat wrapped in silk. She told him she needed time to think about it. The next morning, she received an unexpected ally. Dr. Ruth Okafor was a human xenoarchaeologist, the first one to arrive after the news broke. She was small, energetic, and absolutely obsessed with the vault. They can't force you to do anything, Ruth told her over breakfast. Galactic law is clear. The vault responds to your DNA, which makes you its legal custodian until proper heritage claims are established. That could take years. So I'm stuck here for years. No, it means you decide who goes in. Ruth leaned forward, her eyes bright. And I really want to go in. Nadia liked her immediately. Unlike everyone else, Ruth didn't want to control the vault. She just wanted to understand it. That afternoon, they entered together. The vault's interior was massive. Cathedral ceilings stretched upward into darkness. Ancient machines lined the walls, dormant but somehow still waiting. Lights flickered on as Nadia walked, following her like loyal pets. Ruth documented everything with a small recording device, her voice hushed with wonder. This architecture doesn't match anything in our records. The metal composition is unknown. The power source is undetectable but clearly functional. They walked for nearly an hour, passing through chambers filled with objects they couldn't identify. Finally, they reached the center. A pedestal stood there, and above it floated a sphere of soft light. As Nadia approached, the sphere expanded, forming into a humanoid shape made entirely of light. IT spoke in that same calm voice from before. Genetic confirmation complete. Archive access granted. The hologram changed, showing images of stars and planets and creatures Nadia had never seen. I am a recorded message from those you may call the architects. We were the first intelligent species in this galaxy, arising 2.5 million years before your time. We explored, we learned, and we created. The images showed ships spreading across the cosmos, landing on barren worlds. We seeded life across thousands of planets. We guided evolution where we could. We hoped that one day, our descendants would inherit what we built. The hologram focused on a familiar blue planet. Earth, your world, was one of our seeds. Your species carries genetic markers from our earliest experiments, markers that no other evolved species developed naturally. You are not our children, but you are our inheritors. Ruth grabbed Nadia's arm, her grip tight with shock. The hologram continued. This vault contains our knowledge, our technology, and our warnings. It was locked until one of our inheritors came to claim it. You are the first. You will not be the last. Images flashed across the display. Weapons, machines, medical devices, star maps, history, science, art. 2 million years of accumulated knowledge, all stored in this single structure. But be warned, daughter. The hologram's tone changed. Darker, heavier. You are not the only seeds we planted, and not all seeds grow into flowers. New images appeared, twisted shapes, wrong proportions, creatures that seemed to hurt the eyes just by existing. Some experiments failed. Some creations turned dark. We contained what we could. We destroyed what we had to. But some things cannot be destroyed, only imprisoned. The images faded. The hologram returned to its neutral form. Use our gifts wisely. Learn from our mistakes. And remember, the door was locked for a reason. What sleeps in the dark has long waited for this moment. The hologram dissolved. The chamber fell silent. Nadia and Ruth stood in the blue glow, surrounded by the weight of 2 million years. Did that just say? Ruth whispered that humans are the inheritors of the oldest civilization in galactic history. Nadia nodded slowly, and that opening this vault might have woken something up. Another nod. Ruth was quiet for a long moment. Then she laughed, a slightly hysterical sound that echoed through the ancient chamber. The consortium is going to lose their minds. Nadia thought about Ambassador Delros and his calculating eyes. She thought about all the ships in orbit, all the governments and corporations and powers waiting to claim whatever was inside this vault. And she thought about those twisted shapes in the hologram. The failed seeds. The things that couldn't be destroyed, only imprisoned. She had opened a door that had been locked for 2 million years. What else had she let out? 2 weeks felt like 2 years. Nadia had lost track of how many meetings she had been forced to attend, how many officials had tried to bribe or threaten her, how many news broadcasts had shown her face alongside wild speculation about the vault. She was no longer just a cargo hauler. She was a political problem. The consortium wanted exclusive control of the technology inside. A faction called the Purist Accord, made up of species who believed in genetic superiority, had started spreading propaganda. They claimed the vault's contents should be destroyed rather than given to primitive humans who had only been spacefaring for 40 years. Ambassador Delros had stopped being polite. His last visit had included thinly veiled suggestions about what might happen to independent cargo haulers who made powerful enemies. Nadia responded by filing a formal complaint with 3 different legal bodies. It wouldn't stop him, but it felt good. Her only real allies were Ruth, who spent every available moment studying the vault's archive, and Goss, who had refused to leave despite having no real reason to stay. "You're interesting now," the Drellian had explained with a shrug. "Interesting is rare. I want to see what happens." What happened was that Nadia started learning. The vault systems responded to her in ways they didn't respond to anyone else. Ruth could observe and record, but only Nadia could actually operate the ancient machines. So every night, after the officials left and the guards grew bored, she would slip into the vault and explore. The archive was vast. Millions of years of history, science, philosophy, and art. The architects had been brilliant, but they had also been desperate. Their final centuries had been spent fighting something they couldn't defeat, running from something they couldn't escape. Nadia found their personal records, letters between scientists, journals from leaders, messages from parents to children who would never read them. They had loved and feared and hoped, just like humans did. They had also made terrible mistakes. One night, Nadia found a heavily encrypted file. It took her 3 hours to access even part of it, the vault security systems fighting her every step of the way. What she found made her wish she had stopped trying. Images filled the chamber. Creatures that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Bodies twisted into shapes that shouldn't exist. Ships that looked grown rather than built. The hollow, the archive explained in cold, clinical terms. The architects had created them as protectors, warriors designed to defend the seeded worlds from external threats. They had been engineered for strength, for survival, for absolute loyalty. Something had gone wrong. The loyalty had inverted. The protectors had become predators. The architect had tried everything to stop them. Weapons, diseases, traps. Nothing worked permanently. The Hollow adapted, evolved, overcame. In the end, the architects had used the last of their power to create a prison, a pocket dimension sealed away from normal space. They had forced the Hollow inside and locked the door. The vault was connected to that prison. Opening it had sent a signal, a crack in the seal that had held for 2 million years. Nadia felt sick as she read the final warning. The prison weakens each year. Our calculations suggest total failure within 3 million years of our departure. If the inheritors read this message, prepare yourselves. They will come. She closed the file and sat in the darkness for a long time. The next morning, an alert shattered the quiet routine of Tessera. 7. A ship had entered the system, broadcasting on frequencies that no galactic database recognized. Its design matched nothing any species had ever built, but it matched the ship's and the architect's files perfectly. Nadia ran to the observation deck, pushing through crowds of panicking officials and scientists. Goss and Ruth found her there, staring at the main display. The ship was black in a way that hurt to look at. It seemed to drink in the light around it, leaving only a dark outline against the stars. Is that what I think it is? Ruth whispered. Nadia nodded slowly. The Hollow. They're here. Consortium vessels were scrambling, forming defensive lines that looked pathetically small compared to the darkness approaching. We need to get to the vault, Nadia said. Whatever's coming, the answers are there. The weapons, the defenses, everything the architects left behind. The consortium won't let you, Ruth said. They'll try to lock everything down. Then they'll fail. Nadia turned away from the display, her fear hardening into something like determination. That thing responded to me. Only me. If they want to survive what's coming, they need me inside that vault. Goss cracked his knuckles with all 4 hands. Sounds like we're going to have to be persuasive. Outside, the black ship drifted closer, silent and patient. IT had waited 2 million years. IT could wait a little longer, but not much longer. Nadia felt something deep in her bones, a vibration she couldn't explain. The vault was calling to her, urgent and desperate. Whatever the architects had left behind, she needed to find it now, before the darkness swallowed everything. Fire bloomed across the orbital defense grid. 3 consortium cruisers died in the first 30 seconds, their shields useless against weapons that seemed to eat energy rather than deflect it. Nadia didn't watch the battle. She was running. The chaos had given her exactly what she needed. Guards had abandoned their posts. Officials had fled to evacuation shuttles. The path to the vault was clear for the first time in weeks. Goss ran beside her, his 4 arms pumping. Ruth struggled to keep up, her recording device still clutched in one hand because she couldn't stop being a scientist even during an apocalypse. Behind them, a young consortium officer named Yera shouted directions. She had found them in the panic and offered to help, claiming her superiors cared more about politics than survival. Nadia didn't fully trust her, but they needed all the help they could get. They reached the vault as the first Hollow ship descended through the atmosphere. It moved wrong, Nadia realized. Too smooth, too silent, like something pretending to be a machine. The vault doors opened at her touch. Blue light welcomed them inside. What are we looking for? Ruth asked, gasping for breath. Weapons, defenses, anything that can stop those things. They moved through the chambers quickly, Nadia letting instinct guide her. The vault responded to her urgency. Lights blazing brighter, doors opening faster. In the deepest chamber, she found what the architects had left behind at a control console, ancient but alive with power. Screens flickered to life as she approached, showing schematics and diagrams she didn't understand. Defense grid, the vault's calm voice announced. Status, dormant. Activation requires genetic authorization and manual control. Show me, Nadia demanded. The screens changed. A network of energy projectors hidden throughout the vault structure. They could generate a specific light frequency, something the Hollow couldn't tolerate. The archive had mentioned it, a wavelength that burned them, forced them back. Can this stop them? Temporarily. Full activation will drain significant power reserves. Estimated operational time, 47 minutes. 47 minutes. That was nothing. Is there a permanent solution? The screens flickered. A new image appeared. A second chamber, deeper still, containing what looked like a massive crystal suspended in darkness. The resonance core. If activated by an authorized genetic signature, it can reinforce the dimensional prison and force the hollow back into containment. However, activation requires direct physical contact throughout the process. The energy transfer would be fatal to biological organisms. Nadia felt the words hit her like a physical blow. A one-way trip. The only permanent solution required someone to die. There has to be another way, Ruth said quietly. Before Nadia could respond, the vault shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Through the walls, she could hear something, a sound that wasn't quite a sound, more like a pressure against her mind. They're here, Goss said, his gray face pale. Inside the moon's atmosphere, Yera pulled up a display on her personal device. The hollow ship had landed near the vault. Figures were emerging from it, creatures that hurt to look at even through a screen. They want this place, Yera said. They want the technology inside. They want me, Nadia realized. I opened the door. I weakened the prison. They can sense the connection. The vault shook again. Closer this time, Nadia made a decision. I'll activate the defense grid. Buy us time while we figure out another option. What if there isn't another option? Ruth asked. Then we'll make one. She moved to the control console and placed both hands on the interface. The vault hummed around her, power flowing through systems that had been dormant for millions of years. Authorization accepted. Defense grid activating. Light exploded from the vault. Pure, brilliant white light that pierced through walls and stone and darkness. Outside, the hollow screamed. It was the first sound they had made, a terrible shriek that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Through the screens, Nadia watched them retreat. The light burned them, drove them back toward their ship. But they didn't leave. They simply waited at the edge of the light's reach, patient and hungry. 46 minutes remaining, the vault announced. Nadia sagged against the console. The activation had taken something from her, a drain she felt in her bones. We need help, she said. We can't do this alone. There's no one else, Yera replied. The consortium fleet is destroyed. Reinforcements are days away. But the vault spoke again, unprompted this time. Correction. Additional genetic signatures detected within communication range. 7 individuals carrying architect markers. Locations confirmed across multiple systems. Nadia straightened. What? The inheritors were never meant to act alone. The vault can transmit a signal, a call to others who share your genetic legacy. They may choose to respond. Other humans, others like her, scattered across the galaxy, carrying the same ancient markers in their DNA. Do it, Nadia ordered. Send the signal. Transmitting. The vault pulsed with energy, sending a message across the stars. Somewhere out there, 7 ordinary people felt something stir in their blood. A call they couldn't explain. A pull toward a moon they had never heard of. Whether they would answer was their choice. But for the first time since the hollow appeared, Nadia felt something other than fear. She felt hope. 31 minutes of light remained. The hollow waited at the edge, patient as stone, watching with eyes that didn't quite exist. Nadia had tried everything. Every system, every archive, every piece of architect technology in the vault. Nothing offered a solution that didn't end with her death. Ruth sat beside her, quiet for once. Goss stood guard at the entrance, his 4 arms holding weapons that probably wouldn't matter. Yera monitored communications, waiting for any sign of help that would almost certainly arrive too late. Then the first response came out a crackle of static, then a voice. Human. Female. Confused. I don't know who's listening, but I got your message. Something in my head won't stop pulling me toward coordinates I've never seen. My name is Alice. I'm a teacher on a mining colony. I'm coming. 10 minutes later, another voice. Male, older, steady despite obvious fear. This is Samuel. I'm a doctor on Refugee Station 12. I've been having dreams about blue light for 3 days. My patients can wait. I'm on my way. Then another. a pilot named Kenji who said he had been dreaming of stars he had never visited, a musician named Diana who felt the call like a note she couldn't stop hearing, a farmer named George who had left his fields without knowing why. 7 responses. 7 strangers scattered across the galaxy, all carrying something in their blood that connected them to this ancient place. Estimated arrival times range from 6 hours to 3 days, Yara reported. We don't have that kind of time. Then we make time, Nadia said. She returned to the control console, studying the defense grid's readings. 24 minutes remained. Not enough, but the vault had more secrets. Show me everything, she ordered. Every system, every weapon, every tool the architects left behind. Screens flooded with information. Most of it was useless, technology that would take years to understand. But one entry caught her attention. Amplification protocol. What's that? The vault responded. The defense grid's range and duration can be extended by routing additional power through an authorized genetic signature. The process is physically demanding, but not immediately fatal. Not immediately fatal. Wonderful. How much time could I buy? Depending on genetic compatibility and physical endurance, between 4 and 12 additional hours. Nadia looked at her hands. Ordinary hands. The hands of a cargo hauler who had never asked for any of this. Show me how. The vault guided her to a secondary chamber. A smaller console waited there, connected directly to the defense grid's power core. 2 handprints were carved into its surface, sized perfectly for human palms. Ruth followed her, face tight with worry. Nadia, if this kills you, if this kills me, at least it won't be for nothing. Those 7 people are coming. They answer the call. If I can give them time to arrive, time to learn what I've learned, then maybe they can finish what I started. That's not a plan. That's a sacrifice. It's both. Nadia placed her hands on the console. Tell them what happened here. Tell them why it matters. And tell them that being human isn't about being the strongest or the smartest. It's about standing up when everyone else runs away. The console activated. Power surged through Nadia's body, lighting up nerves she didn't know she had. It hurt. Stars and shadows. It hurt more than anything she had ever felt. But she held on. Outside, the defense grid blazed brighter. The light pushed farther, driving the hollow back another 100 meters. Their screams of frustration echoed across the barren landscape. Nadia felt herself draining. Her life force, her energy, her essence, all of it flowing into ancient machines that converted it into the light that kept the darkness at bay. She saw flashes of memory. Her childhood on Earth, her first ship, the divorce that had sent her running to the stars. The moment she had touched the scanner, never knowing what it would mean, 0.6 hours passed. Or maybe 6 minutes. Time had lost all meaning. Then new voices cut through the haze. Tessera, 7 Control. This is the transport vessel Hope's Reach. We have 7 passengers requesting immediate landing clearance. They had come. Against all odds, across impossible distances, 7 ordinary humans had answered the call. Nadia smiled, though she couldn't feel her face anymore. Ruth, she managed to say, bring them to me. The last thing she saw before consciousness faded was blue light, warm and welcoming, wrapping around her like a blanket. The vault spoke, its voice softer than before. Genetic bond established. Life signs critical. Initiating preservation protocol. Nadia's body lifted from the console, suspended in a cocoon of pure energy. The light that had been draining from her began flowing back, mixed with something older, something from the vault itself. The architects had prepared for this. They had known their inheritors might give everything to protect others. So they had built a way to give something back. Nadia floated in the blue light, neither alive nor dead, waiting for the others to arrive, waiting for the next chapter of a story that had begun 2 million years before she was born. Outside, the hollow continued to wait, but now they waited for enemies who were no longer alone. Blue faded to white. White faded to the soft glow of medical equipment. Nadia opened her eyes and found herself staring at an unfamiliar ceiling. 0.3 months. That's what Ruth told her when she finally had the strength to ask. 3 months in a coma, sustained by architect technology that the best scientists in the galaxy still couldn't fully understand. The war with the Hollow was over. For now, Nadia sat up slowly, her body weak but whole. Through the window of her medical room, she could see Tessera 7's surface, scarred but recovering. The vault stood at the center of a new complex, surrounded by research stations and defensive installations. "You're awake." Ruth stood in the doorway, older somehow, tired but smiling. "The Hollow, gone." The 7 who answered your call, they figured it out together. The Resonance Corps didn't need one person to sacrifice themselves. It needed 8 people working together, sharing the load. When you gave them time to arrive, you gave them the chance to find another way. Nadia closed her eyes. 8 humans, carrying ancient genetic markers, combining their strength to seal away a threat that had defeated the greatest civilization in galactic history. Where are they now? Waiting to meet you. They've been here for weeks, training with the vault systems, learning what you learned. They refused to leave until you woke up. The meeting happened that afternoon in a garden that had been grown inside the vault's walls. Architect technology made impossible things possible, and someone had decided that the inheritors deserved a place of peace among all the ancient machinery. Alice was small and fierce, a teacher who had never backed down from a difficult student or a cosmic threat. Samuel was calm and careful, a doctor who had saved lives on the battlefield while energy weapons scorched the sky. Kenji laughed easily despite everything, a pilot who had flown through hollow formations to deliver supplies when no one else would. Diana, George, and the others each had their own stories. Ordinary people who had felt the call and answered it, not because they were special, but because someone needed help. They weren't an army. They weren't superheroes. They were just 8 humans who had refused to let the darkness win. "So what happens now?" Nadia asked, sitting among them in the artificial sunlight. "That's up to you," Alice said. "You opened the door. You started this. The rest of us are following your lead." Nadia thought about that for a long moment. She had never wanted to lead anything. She had spent 6 years running from responsibility, hiding in the empty spaces between stars, but running wasn't an option anymore. "The architects left us more than weapons," she said slowly. "They left us knowledge, history, science. 2 million years of learning from a species that explored the galaxy before any of our ancestors existed." She looked at each of them in turn. "They also left us a choice. We can use what's here to make humanity powerful, dominant. We could become conquerors if we wanted, but that's not what they intended," Samuel said quietly. "No. They created the Hollow to be warriors, and look what happened. They learned the hard way that strength without purpose becomes destruction." Nadia stood, looking out at the garden, at the vault beyond it, at the stars waiting beyond that. "They chose us because we're different. Not stronger, not smarter. Different. Different how?" Kenji asked. "We protect things. It's in our nature. We adopt stray animals and raise other species' children and mourn for strangers we've never met. We build families out of whoever needs one and fight for people who can't fight for themselves." She turned back to face them. The architects didn't need warriors. They needed gardeners. Someone to tend the seeds they planted, to protect the life they created across thousands of worlds. That's our inheritance. Not power. Responsibility. The silence stretched. Then Alice smiled. "I've been a teacher for 15 years. Tending and protecting is literally my job description." "I'm a doctor," Samuel added. "Same thing, different tools." One by one, they nodded. Ordinary people accepting an extraordinary burden, not because they had to, but because it was right. The Galactic Consortium sent representatives that evening. They wanted to negotiate access to the vault's technology. Ambassador Delros was notably absent, replaced by officials who seemed genuinely interested in cooperation rather than control. The purest accord had collapsed. Their ships had fled while humans fought and died to protect everyone. Nobody was listening to their propaganda anymore that a new alliance was forming, one that treated humanity as partners rather than primitives. Not because humans had proven themselves superior, but because they had proven themselves willing to sacrifice for others. That night, Nadia stood at the vault's entrance, looking up at the stars. Ruth found her there, as she always seemed to. What are you thinking about? The hollow will come back eventually. The prison is still weakening. And there are other things out there, other threats the architects couldn't defeat. Sounds exhausting. Nadia smiled. It does. But we have time now. Time to learn. Time to prepare. Time to find more of us, more inheritors scattered across human space. She touched the vault wall. It glowed warm beneath her palm, recognizing her, welcoming her home. We were never meant to just survive out here, she said softly. We were meant to protect. All of them. Every species, every world. That's what the architects understood. That's why they chose us. Ruth stood beside her, two humans looking at the infinite dark and the darkness. Ruth asked, "What about that?" Nadia's smile widened. The darkness has waited 2 million years. It can wait a little longer, because now it's not waiting for victims. She turned away from the stars. It's waiting for us, and we're not afraid. The end.